Welcome. It is Saturday, February the 1st, 2025. White rabbit. Something my mom would always say for good luck at the beginning of each month. Welcome. Today I will be headed to the George Ranch Historical Park in Richmond, Texas. But first, coffee. So join me if you will. It's good to have you here. Will you? What is the George Ranch, you ask? Well, it's a 23,000-acre working ranch located in Fort Bend County, Texas. The ranch's history follows family lines beginning in 1824 when Texas was still part of Mexico. So I have one of these small Bucky stores not too far from me. Was able to get me some caffeination, hot coffee. All right, let's hit the road. Thank you, Buc-ee's. The George Ranch, established 1824. Visitor Center. I guess this is the visitor center. I'm not sure. Guess I'll find out. Alright, so I got a map, the layout of the land. It's a walking tour. You just go out there, and she said there's a couple of houses. I think it's like 4 houses, actually. And she said the tour starts as soon as you get there. And there are a couple of things that start at different times. But as far as the walking tour, yeah, it just starts as soon as you get there. So this is the main entrance. Just looking around in here before I head outside. Holly Ryan's Jewelry. We used to have a Polly Ryan hospital. So it was named after Mary Polly Ryan. In the wake of the Battle of the Alamo, the Mexican army advances east towards Richmond. Rice. All right, let's head outside. So like I said, it is a walking tour, because it just kind of loops around, comes back around over here. Do not feed or pet the horses. Hey, buddy. This is pretty cool. I've never done this before. Beware of alligators and snakes. (1830s) Jones Stock Farm, 1860s Ryan Prairie Home.
Attack yesterday. Still at the restaurant. How are you doing today, sir?
Good, how you doing?
Excellent. Please come on up. Grab a chair, grab a bench. Tell you a little bit of a story. That day we had 500 high school kids. 500 high school? Yeah. There's quite a few days when we hit entire high school grade levels here, and the wind was out of the south, so it was kind of misdirection. That's the problem. I could smell them. Oh my god! It was like Axe body spray. I smelled. I'm like, God, like what does that smell? It smells like sweat. I can smell that sour sweat. Yeah. But then, what is it? What else? It's like perfume, you know, like, and then when they started walking out, it was just like, oh no. Yeah. But they were fine. What year was it? Like, when was it? Like a couple of weeks ago. Oh, geez. Oh, yeah. 501 day. Okay. Yeah. Let me see here. Well, January, February, it kind of slows down because it's January, February. Yeah. March? Oh, no. I think we've got the schedule up for, definitely for February. Oh, today's February 1st. Okay, there we are. I've got 97. 25th, I've got 100. For March, we have 245, 203. Okay, so February's kind of like.
And the walking continues. Definitely gonna get my steps in today. (1860s) Ryan Prairie Home. Yeah, I asked the guy if I could video while he was talking, and he said he preferred I didn't because someone videoed before and used his speech like at another museum. But yeah, he let me video in the rooms and everything, so that was pretty cool. Yeah, this is pretty neat. I knew the George Ranch was out here, but I didn't know they had this walking tour like this. It's pretty cool. Yeah, being out here, it feels like I'm on Little House on the Prairie or something. Hello.
Hi.
And she was named after the Polyron Hospital?
The hospital is her, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, the Joneses, back at the cabin where they settled, so they had 12 children. Polly is the third child, the oldest daughter. There were 2 sons and then Polly. She had quite a little advantage over her siblings in that she inherited about 8,000 acres of land from her godfather. He didn't have any children, and she got half of his estate when he passed away. That was when he was 16, and she started managing that ranch right away. She grew that over the next roughly 20 years and used some of the profit from that to buy out her other siblings when her father passed away from their shares of the inheritance on the original ranch. And she became the sole owner of the ranch when she was in her mid-30s. This space is actually so formal that her children were not allowed in here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no one under 15 or roughly thereabouts could come in here. They had about 200 rules of Victorian etiquette that they needed to learn before they could come in here. And it takes about that time before you're finished learning all of those. And so the dining room actually functions the same way. Your children don't eat in there, they eat in the kitchen. That's where the kids' table is.
All right, so this is one of the upstairs bedrooms. Yeah, this is pretty neat. So peaceful out here. It is a beautiful day today. 1890s Davis Victorian site, the blacksmith shop, Davis Mansion, a family cemetery. Now they did have a tram tour that you could take, but I just decided to walk it. I need to get my steps in anyway. This must be the blacksmith.
Better weather today.
Oh yeah.
We would have thought the last couple of days.
Right.
Yeah, so welcome to the blacksmith shop.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, so this was not always just a blacksmith shop. It was also a wheelwright shop as well as a blacksmith shop, and originally it was not located here. It was originally located in San Antonio. It was built around 1982, 1892. My apologies.
That's good.
And it made wheels essentially for carriages and wagons. So they made wheels similar to this, and this place was divided into sort of two different rooms. So on this side is where all the metalworking was done, and then this side is where all the woodworking would have been done. There usually would have been about 12 blacksmiths and their apprentices in here at one point. Now, the last person who actually owned and worked in this place as a wheelwright and a blacksmith sadly passed away in 1984. Now, they had no next of kin, nobody that they were actually going to give the place to, so it just kind of sat, eventually went up for auction, somebody bought it, was going to tear the place down, develop the land it was on. Now, George Grant said, hey, how about we take it off your hands? And they said, okay, so they put it on a really big truck and brought it all the way over here over the course of a couple months back in the 1980s. So now it sits here as an actual blacksmith shop that we use ourselves as a blacksmith shop, as well as for education purposes. So what we do here, and what blacksmiths would have done for ranches and farm communities back then, obviously, is make things that would be needed by those communities. So things like knives, axe heads, kitchen utensils like pots and pans and forks and spoons and even plates, nails, which were very important because you need nails for a roof, and of course a big thing that starts being made in the later part of the 1800s, branding irons, which this symbol is also what has been used by the George Ranch for most of its operational history. We don't really do this kind of branding anymore. We do something now called hole branding, which is basically just changing the hair follicles on some of the cows and then making it look like a shape or a number or a symbol of any sort. So yeah, I'm today just working on a little bit of a practice project of making sort of a leaf out of a piece of metal. I'm a blacksmith apprentice. The head blacksmith is sadly out today, so I'm sort of just practicing and building up my foundation skills still. So
Cool.
that's really what I'm doing. I'm working with iron, which this can get up to about 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and at that point it starts burning a sort of yellowish orange, and that's the sweet spot for what you actually want to work with. Now, different metals obviously burn at different rates, so you can actually get hotter than that 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Eventually, it will start to spark. At that point, it's saying, "Take me out of the fire." And if you don't do that, it will start to burn white, and the metal itself will actually burn, and it will corrode, and it can actually will be useless for whatever you're trying to do.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So they also would have worked with iron and steel back in the early 1800s to the early 1900s. They would have gotten it from places that are considered the Rust Belt nowadays, so like Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and then they would have gotten coal, which we still get our coal from these places of West Virginia and Pennsylvania.
Yeah, this tour is pretty cool. I didn't know they had all this out here.
lived here on the ranch. It started out in Richmond, Texas, which is about 9 years north of here. 9 years. 9 miles, not 9 years. 9 miles north of here. And in 1977, they moved the house here because it was going to be torn down. And so they wanted to save it. Here's what it looked like when they were getting ready to move it.
Okay.
And so then at night they pull it over to the side of the road and then come back the next day and start again. Now, this room that you're in right now, this is called the formal parlor. And this is where the Davises would entertain their guests, celebrate holidays, and special occasions. They, on the table, there's a picture of Polly Ryan. Did you come from the 60s?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, that was her house, and that original house was in on the ranch, but in 1888 it burned. So she moved into this house to be with her grandchildren and the rest of her family. Now, something interesting about Polly is that she had she lived in all 3 of the homes. She was born in the cabin, lived there until she married, and then when she married, she lived somewhere else. But then when her father passes away, she inherits the prairie home, lives in the prairie home till 1888 when it burns. She then comes here, and she lives here until 1896 when she does pass away. Now, just like we have superstitions now, some people believe certain things. Right. Well, they did back then too. So when a person passed here in this time period, they would take the body out and it would go to the mortician. Okay, he would prepare the body, put it in a casket, but when they came back, they could not come through the front door. That was considered bad luck. Okay. So what they would do is, if you notice, this window goes all the way to the floor, and that's because it touches the porch. Now, this window opens all the way up. It folds up into the door, into the ceiling there, and it can be used as a door. So that's the way they brought the casket in. They put her casket up here in the front window so that people on the street could stop and pay their respects. Now, some interesting things in this room are like the musical instrument. That's called a zither, and young girls in this time period always learned how to play an instrument. And over there on the table, that little thing right there is a stereoscope, and it gives, you buy the postcards, and then you can bring them home, and you can show your friends and family where you travel to. Cool. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're curious about anything or just have questions, please just let me know. I'm going to show you some pictures of the people who lived here. This is Judge Davis, okay? He is not a judge in a courtroom. He's a businessman. He has 2 banks, a cotton seed oil company, a cotton gin, and several other businesses. They call him judge just as a form of respect. Okay. This is his wife, Susan Elizabeth. There's a larger portrait up there on the wall. And they have 3 children. Their oldest child, of course, is Daisy, and she passes away as a young girl. Then there's Mamie, and then there's Bud. Now, when Susan is 29, she gets what they call at the time consumption, which is really tuberculosis. And at this time in history, they didn't know anything about it. That's why they called it consumption. They just knew she was probably going to die. Most people did. So you can imagine Susan's concerned. She has a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. And so what she gets to do is pick her husband's second wife. Oh, wow. Yes. Now, she does that because she wants to know who's going to be looking after her kids. She also wants to know that they will receive their inheritance. So she can pick an unmarried cousin or an unmarried sister. So she chooses her cousin, Belle Ryan, Now, Bella's from Kentucky. She comes to visit often. So the kids know her. She knows them. They know it'll be a good match. So 4 years after Susan's death, the judge does marry Belle. And they're actually married for around 40 years. Don't have any kids of their own, but Susan's kids are well taken care of. Now, back to the room. Okay, this is known as the gentleman's study, and this is where the men come so that they can smoke, drink, gamble, talk business, talk politics, all the things that they enjoy doing. Now, if the doors are shut, they can do those things. If the doors are open, then they need to hide them. Okay, now they hide them not because people don't know what's going on in here, but because out of respect for other people that might find it offensive. Over here we have the tantalus table, very tantalizing to the gentleman. And if you lift up the sides, the center part goes down into the cabinet, top closes over, it's just a table.
Okay.
And over here we have checkers. Now, at this time they used checkers as gambling. It was not a children's game. And as you can see, the checkerboard looks like books. So you open them up, you slide the checkers inside, close up the two halves. We're reading, we're not gambling.
That's right.
Yeah. This is the ladies' parlor. And in here is where the ladies come. They can have tea and dessert. They can play the pump organ. They can sing. They can sew. They can visit. Pretty much whatever they wish to do. No secrets in here. And in the evening, if there is no company, children under 14 can come in this room and they treat it as a family room. And what they would do is they would take a book off the shelf, and they would, everybody in the room, from the oldest person that could read to the youngest person that could read, they would read out loud and take turns. And of course they read the classics because that was just their literature. In case somebody came by and they were hungry, they could feed them and it would be all ready. Children under 14 did not sit at this table. They ate in the kitchen until they learned all of their manners. They had between 200 and 300 rules of etiquette to learn. 75 just for the table. They have to know what every piece of china on the table is and how to use it. This dish right here is known as the bone dish. So if you're eating chicken or fish, that's where you put your bones. This dish right here is the table butter dish, and the holes are so you can put ice or cool water underneath so it doesn't melt as quickly. Now, Mr. Davis, as you saw in the picture, had a mustache, and his children, one Christmas, gave him this mustache cup. So he could keep his mustache clean. Yes. This cup and saucer is 131 years old.
Wow.
And as you can see, the children's place settings on the table. And so that's where they would eat. The nanny was the one that taught them all of their manners. She knew everything. So they would, of course, learn from her. This on the floor right here, this copper thing, is a washing machine to wash your clothes. It's hand operated. This over here is a butter mold so that you can have a star on your butter, because we know as Texans, if it's got a star, it's better.
That's right.
Next to the butter mold is a butter churn. Now, most of the time when we think of old-fashioned butter churns, we think of this kind back here. But this was a little bit more modern. So you turn the crank in turn turns a wheel that goes down into the box, and there's paddles in there that would go around to make the cream into butter. The stove is wood burning. Wood goes in on the left. The center is the oven, and the far right is a water reservoir so that you can have hot water all day. And they could use that for pretty much for whatever they needed. Now, over the pantry over there, straight over that way, right there. There is a brown thing with a long handle that is a floor sweeper, and then next to it is a vacuum cleaner. Only family was allowed up here. You see over here we have this couch and chairs, and that is so that they actually belong to Mr. Davis, and they were some of his favorites. They are made of all Longhorns, and so he put them up here because he really liked them. Okay, come on in here. All right, this is the master bedroom. Okay, it's the biggest room here in the house. Now, up here on the wall, we have a picture of Mamie and Bud when they were little. This is where the judge could shave. And then over here in the corner is the pitcher and basin. They had, it was no indoor bathrooms. So they would take a sponge bath morning and evening, and then once a week they got to take a full bath. Okay. Then over here we have the chamber pot, so as not to have to go outside at night and meet a skunk or a snake or something like that. Yeah. And you may notice in the rooms there's little things that look like they come from Asia, and that's because to the Victorians, if they had things like that, it made them look wealthy, well-traveled, and well-educated.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mamie's room, and this is Mamie, okay? And
She was one of the daughters?
she was the oldest daughter after Daisy died. Okay. This is her fiance, Albert George. These are the two that got married downstairs, the two that built the George house, and the two that the ranch is named after.
Oh, okay.
Now, this is Mamie's room, and she is, and it's set up to look like it did when she was 16. For her 16th birthday, she received this bedroom set. Her father had hired an artisan in Galveston to hand carve the entire set. Now, over in the back corner there's a little chair. It's called a lollipop chair because it looks like lollipops on the side. And then over here she has her own changing room where she could change her clothes, kind of like a predecessor to walk-in closet, just without the hanging areas. Okay, let's go in here. Okay, now this is Bud's room, and that's Bud over there on the wall. And yes, he's wearing a dress. Now, he's wearing a dress not for fashion, but because he is not potty trained. Boys and girls wore dresses until they were potty trained.
Wow.
And it was just easier to take care of business that way. And his hair is parted in the center, so you know that he is a boy, because that was the way you could tell the difference between boys and girls. Now, he does grow up. He goes to college, studies business, comes back and helps his family. And as a young man, however, he decides he doesn't want to marry, so he doesn't. He has a room here at his parents' house, a room at his sister's, and a suite in Houston. And unfortunately, around the age of 43, he gets tuberculosis and does pass away. Mm. So then everything goes to Mamie, and that's why we have the George Ranch today. Okay, now this is the guest bedroom. And if you notice, the furniture looks like bamboo. And that's, again, because it has the Asian influence. Now, this is not real bamboo, however. It is actually maple carved to look like bamboo. Now, the coverlet on the bed is all hand crocheted. And the little rocking chair back there in that corner did belong to the family. So I'm sure Mamie and Bud sat in that at one point or another.
Did Polly die in this house?
She did, yes. The story goes that she did have a bedroom upstairs, but she fell down the stairs. They thought she had dropsy, which is really congestive heart failure. And after she fell down the stairs, she could not go back up. So they took the ladies' parlor and turned that into her bedroom. So I
Okay.
believe that's where she passed.
Okay.
Okay, do you have any questions?
Man, that was so interesting. I like stuff like this. How you doing? This is the cemetery. This is just another side of the mansion. So this is a pretty cool tour. The only thing, the first cabin that I went to, I always ask him if I can video. And the first guy said, he preferred I didn't because someone videoed before and used his speech in another museum. The second house I went to with the girl, she said she didn't mind if I videoed. And this one, the lady said she didn't mind if I videoed either, just she preferred I didn't get her on video. Like I said, this is a pretty cool tour. I would definitely come back. I like learning about history. Yep, definitely getting my steps in today. But it really does feel like I've gone back in time. Pretty cool place. That is a huge tree. So I guess that's the end of the tour. Just gotta get back to the main entrance. There's so many different roads that veer off different directions. It's a little confusing, even though I got the map. Some horses over here. Hey, buddy. There's the tram stop. You can take the tram if you don't want to walk. Wow, look at this tree house. Mamie and Albert George, Spirit of Giving. So this was Mamie and George's house. So there is a tour, but it starts at noon. It's currently 11:35, but I'll have to come back for that. Tours are every 30 minutes. Maximum of 25 people per tour. Oh, that's cool. Looks like a lighthouse. And they have a little old church over here. So yeah, I'll definitely have to come back and take a tour of this house.
That's all you gotta do.
All right, I'm gonna head over to the gift shop, see if we can get me a magnet, and head on out. Handcrafted blacksmith items. Albert and Mamie George, the legend and the legacy. The story of the George Foundation. Alright, I got a couple of items. I'll show you what I got. So I got the George Ranch magnet. And I got me one of these pencil sharpeners. And like I said, I'll definitely be back. There's definitely a lot more to see here than I thought. Got a lot of walking in. I got about 8,500 steps showing on my watch. Y'all come back soon. Alright, well that's going to do it for my video for today. As always, thank you for watching. Be safe, be kind, and stay caffeinated.